Right, so last night the Tories declared themselves the Transphobic Party, and Starmer ordered his MPs to join them because, as the saying goes, if good people do nothing, they are no longer good. I'm talking, of course, about the Tories passing a Section 35 order against the Scottish Parliament to block their gender recognition reform bill. The purpose of this bill was to make it easier for trans people to obtain a gender recognition certificate, which is a legal document formally changing your gender in the eyes of the law to that which is printed on your birth certificate. This is a legal change in gender. It's a piece of paper, but right now obtaining one of these can be rather difficult. The Gender Recognition Reform Bill aims to make this process easier. Right now, to get a GRC, you need a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, where your biological sex and your sense of sexual self-identity don't match. It also planned to reduce the age of applicants for a GRC from 18 to 16. Now, this is as far as the bill goes. It is only about changing your gender more easily than you could already do so. And it's something people have been able to do since 2004 anyway. If you identify as trans, you should be able to change your assigned sex to suit you. It's an infringement of your human rights for that to be denied to you, surely, or have conditions placed upon you over matters of age or psychological diagnosis. You may disagree with me on this, but it's how I regard it. And the bill passed in Scotland. Again, not everyone in every party agreed, but it passed 86 votes to 39, which is fairly emphatic. Democracy is being carried out, has it not? Well, not if the Tories could help it. For the first time since the Scotland Act of 1998 was created, the act that devolved powers to Scotland, Rishi Sunak's Tories have blocked the Scottish GRR bill from gaining royal assent by invoking Section 35 of that Scotland Act. The Section 35 of the Scotland Act was a fail-safe built into the devolution deal for the British government to effectively block any Scottish legislation passed that they didn't like, and it does so by preventing any bill from gaining royal assent, which is essential for any bill to become law. Stupid system. Take the royals out of the equation, but that's another argument. They can only do this under certain circumstances, though. I'll come to them in a moment. The Tories' excuse for blocking this was over a question of equalities. Well, they've just denied equalities to trans people over this, have they not? Anyway, they made the claim that it would render safe spaces for women unsafe because, of course, the only reason any man goes through getting a GRC is so at the end of it they can use the ladies' loos and sexually assault other women. It's insulting to invoke the Equalities Act on this for such a reason, for that kind of thinking. It automatically is assuming those getting a GRC are wannabe rapists. It's insulting to anyone from LGBTQ plus communities affected by this issue, used as a political football as part of a culture war. My own view on this is that how people choose to identify themselves is up to them. We're all human, and frankly, it's no business of anyone else to dictate terms on that. The Scottish Parliament took a lead on this, showing themselves to be forward-thinking and passing a bill that suits the times we now live in. The Tories vetoing it shows what relics of the past they are, and by blocking it in Scotland shows they've no intention of addressing these issues for the rest of the UK either. And in fact, it's because they've no intention of taking similar appropriate action across the UK that the Tories took the decision to block it by invoking Section 35, which, as I said before, can only be done under certain circumstances. To trigger Section 35, they must believe there to be an incompatibility over international issues of defence or national security, or they decide the given bill would constitute modification of so-called reserved matters, which is a bit vague, but is the part of the Act which has been applied by Scotland Minister Alistair Jack, since the Tories believe it'll create too much of a legislative divergence in different parts of the UK over the issue of gender recognition, and it'll affect other legislation they may potentially want to make in the future. It opens a massive can of worms, though. There's nothing really democratic about invoking Section 35. Telling people who want to change their gender they are a threat to UK legislation and lawmaking going forwards effectively is outrageous. There's no good way of using it. Scotland would never risk national security. It's daft to imagine Section 35 ever being invoked over that aspect of devolution. But the alternative is such a vague and arbitrary use of it, it will only ever trigger significant political badwill. And when Sturgeon wants another tilt at an independence vote, this disagreement, if it blows up hard enough, could play entirely into her hands on that. Somewhat unfairly to those affected, the entire argument could explode into another full-on debate over the devolution settlement itself, as well as another independence row. The GRR issue shouldn't be lost in all of that. It's not just the Tories who should be shamed over this, though, because Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner, you can't just go out joining pride marches and then come back, sit on your hands and abstain as the Tories vote to block this bill. Starmer ordered his party to sit on the fence. It's not like Labour opposing this would necessarily have made a difference. The numbers aren't there. But at least people affected could see who had their backs, who was in their corner and who wasn't. We know the Rosie Duffields of this world would never have voted against it, but it's sad that only 11 Labour MPs found it within themselves to defy Starmer's cowardice and vote against the Tories on this, and vote with the LGBTQ plus community. Right now, the Scottish Government are, as of this morning, going to take legal action against the British Government over this, drag them through the courts to see if a judge agrees or not that this has been an inappropriate use of Section 35. It seems flaky at best to me. But either way, the Tories are making yet more enemies whilst Labour fails to make any friends.